Alrighty, so we are sitting down to film another one-shot review. My apologies in advance if I'm burping during this video because we just got done literally 5 minutes ago eating some shawarma. That was very good. But anyway, the movie that I saw today was the 50th anniversary director's cut of The Exorcist. Now, we saw this through what I guess is the company is like Fathom Events or something like that. Honestly, I fail to type in the correct thing every time I Google it. So, my apologies. But what this basically is a company that makes these events where they re-show old movies in theaters once again. And so today we saw The Exorcist. Next week at the same theater, they have an event to do Rob Zombie's House of a Thousand Corpses. And I think like next month they've got Spirited Away and Back to the Future and Hunger Games and Scarface. So they've got a bunch of these lined up, and they even do ones where they'll do like one-offs of indie films and stuff like that get a lot of awards. This is me after looking online at what they have in the future. But anyway, yeah, so it gave us the ability to see the original Exorcist movie in theaters today, and I actually had a lot of fun. So getting into it, I would say first off, just to get this stuff out of the way, today we went to a Regal Theaters instead of an AMC solely because this Phantom event thing was not available at the AMC. And this Regal was a little bit farther away, but not that bad. But it was interesting to kind of trade teams for a second and see what's going on at Regal, because back home, where I'm originally from, there's a Regal, and we went to the Regal a lot because that's just like the closer movie theater once the Carmike died. And it was just interesting to be back at Regal. I have some things where I would say, maybe there's a video to be made about the difference between movie theaters and how they kind of shake out. But I'll save that discussion for another day. We got popcorn, we got some fruit snacks, and we got a Diet Pepsi that was fresh from the fountain. Not no stupid ass, damn, I hope I don't get like some sort of strike for using a curse word that early. But no stupid Coke freestyle machine to deal with, which was nice. And I gotta be honest, I think that the pop held up this time. I think plastic cup is actually the way to go, which seems counterintuitive because they're always sweating, but there you go. Anyway, getting into the movie. So The Exorcist, I feel like there's no reason why I should have to explain the plot of this movie, but I'm going to anyway, at least a little bit. It's about a movie for anyone that hasn't seen it. Because I personally, this is my first time seeing the film at all. So I hope that I didn't get any weird scenes or whatever by watching the director's cut, but I just want to say flat off before I even talk about it, I actually thought it was really good, and I am always pleasantly surprised when I see an old movie, and how the direction and the cinematography kind of shakes out in the end, because there's just so much less editing in older movies, and I feel like leans to a more paced out experience where you're literally kind of engrossed in the film rather than like boom 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 all this stuff's happening. So I really enjoyed that aspect of the movie, but it started out this time with like a little commentary from the I think the president of Warner Bros. Giving like a Warner Bros. 100-year commentary on The Exorcist and stuff. And it was pretty interesting. I really loved having that before the movie, and I'm hesitant to say, but I'll say it. I almost wish that every movie had this sort of intro thing, either from like the director or from the studio exec that knows about the movie or whatever, because it really helped me, and it just sounds so silly because they're very contrived, like little videos, but it really helped me put the film I was about to see in context of not only when it was originally released, but just kind of like the vibe, and made it a little bit more serious and kind of centered myself before watching it, you know? So I just appreciated that a lot, even though it was cheesy. And not that, since I'm sure I'll forget to talk about it by the end, what was super fun that we didn't stay to see a lot of, but we could have, was the Fathom event. They actually had special features stuff like content at the end of the film if you just waited for the credits to end. And so they started talking about, like, what we did stay to see was them looking at pictures of different iconic set pieces in Georgetown, what it looked like then and what it looks like today, and them kind of talking over the scenery and stuff like that. I really enjoyed that content, and I think that if they have more of these, if I go to more of these events and they have those special features at all of them, I may be tempted to stay and watch them all and become some weirdo that knows all these little facts. But that being said, The Exorcist is a movie about a girl who is the daughter of a movie star actress, which that was kind of subversive in a way. I thought that was kind of fun. Who becomes possessed by some sort of demon, the devil himself, some demonic spirit, whatever. And then through the trials of the movie, they obviously try to, as it says on the film's cover, exorcise the demon out of this girl. And I was kind of interested by the way that the movie actually played out, because when you see the trailer for the movie, when you see the cover, all that kind of stuff, you basically think it's like we're accustomed to scary movies today being like spending a lot of time in that actual room where the demon's freaking out and all this creepy stuff's happening, or maybe they're completely unaware that they're being haunted, and then all of a sudden the things start to line up and they notice it more and more until it reaches that climax. In this movie, a good chunk of the movie was spent well outside of that bedroom where all this stuff's taking place. So, like, in the beginning of the movie, you start off in some place in Iraq where you get to see the Exorcist guy basically doing his research and trying to, do archaeological dig to find different artifacts and stuff. And he stumbles upon something demonic or something that leads to that end. And he's a little bit freaked out, and he's like, I've got something I have to go do. And he leaves Iraq, and that's kind of the last we see of him until later on in the movie when he's reintroduced as the Exorcist. And then the rest of the movie takes place within that kind of scope where we're seeing, well, not the rest of the movie, but a lot of the other scenes of the movie take place with the mom trying to figure out what's wrong with their daughter. And it was actually kind of interesting how, like, instead of immediately being like, oh my gosh, she's demented, we need to get an exorcist in here, whatever, she follows the path of what any normal human being would do when their child's experiencing, like, weird stuff. Is first she goes to the doctor multiple times until she's willing to believe that it's some sort of spiritual issue or something like that. And then even then, the psychiatrists at one point, once she's kind of put her daughter in front of them, are saying, maybe she is possessed in her own mind. She feels like she's possessed. And so let's do an exorcism, because in the same way of the placebo effect, now she'll be just as deceptively convinced that she's been cured of her demon problem if we do the exorcism. But obviously, as we know from seeing the trailer and other things, that the freaking demon is real. But yeah, I thought that was pretty cool, because she goes to the doctor, and the doctor's first like, oh, I think she's got anxiety and hyperactivity. Let's give her some Ritalin. And then also she's experiencing personality changes, and she tells the doctor, they're like, what did she say that was so bad? And the doctor said, she told me to keep my goddamn fingers off of this CUNT. And that, I gotta be honest, that shit was hilarious. But yeah, they go to the doctor. They even do like multiple brain scans on her, which, by the way, the type of brain imaging technology they had in the 70s is absolutely frightening. But that's another story for another day. But yeah, so then, the story progresses, and I'm not really going to spoil it, because I feel like if you haven't seen this movie, it would be fun to watch it without knowing what happens in the end, like I did. But it goes into very, very interesting. Like once they start doing the scenes where they're trying to exorcise her and she's doing more and more demonic stuff, it's I can see why they said that this film like made people faint and was like the priests wanted it to be X-rated so no children would go see it and all this kind of stuff. There were some definitely graphic scenes in this movie, but none of them were really that crazy compared to what we get today. But just the amount of like shock value some of them had was pretty cool. So I like the movie a lot. So kind of getting into it, I think that if I'm going to think about, how did it kind of play out for me, what's my main... Let me just say, I think that the movie itself, all the pieces of the movie that come together, the direction, the cinematography, where it was filmed, the plot itself, all that were all very good. If I had to say one thing that was kind of a letdown, was just that there's a lot of suspense, a lot of buildup, a lot of conflict, and then everything wraps up like that. Like the climax happens and it's just over. And so it almost feels a little bit underwhelming. But with that being said, I think that is more the take that I have, given that I've seen other scary movies that try to show like nastier and nastier stuff. Like even just seeing Talk to Me and It Lives Inside and movies that I've seen in the past like Sinister and maybe even The Conjuring, even though I feel like that one was a pretty tame movie. Stuff like that in comparison to this is just like almost a different animal, and if I exclude that from this, I can see why maybe that was such an impactful climatic moment back then, but maybe not now. But I don't know. Honestly though, I didn't hate it. I still liked it. It just was not what I expected was going to happen. Even though, shout out to the director, he was talking in the commentary that we did say to watch that he likes to do sort of this thing where, and I'm sure everybody does this, is like the whole point of being good at making movies or something, but like leaving subtle things that go deep into the watcher's subconscious so that the mood is set, and then eventually when things happen, they kind of make sense. I feel like the ending of this movie was foreshadowed through similar subconscious techniques somehow, even though they tricked me, because literally I was sitting there in the seat like, dude, I wonder if that's going to happen. Like, what happens if that happens? And then it happened. But there was no legitimate, like I was sitting here just, like, spinning my brain. Like, there wasn't anything on screen that made me think that. So, maybe I should be impressed by that. I don't know. Anyway, to get into it, because I don't want to make this video too long, it's The Exorcist. Hopefully a lot of you have seen it. If you haven't seen it, go see it. I really liked it, but if you have the let me just start plugging it in. To plug it into the where you should see it. If you have the option to go to a similar event like this sometime in the future, namely, if you happen to watch this video the day that I upload it, you could probably find the event on, I think they do Sundays and Wednesdays. So you could probably catch the Wednesday if you really were about it. At Regal. Look it up, Fathom.com, whatever the hell it is. There you go. But I would recommend seeing it in theaters. I definitely would recommend seeing it in theaters. I don't think that it loses any value watching it at home, really. Like nothing like dramatic, but it's just like I said, like getting the vibes ready, getting set in context before watching the movie made me so much more in the zone when trying to pay attention to it, and like helped me sort of not worry about some of the age that it shows from being like a 70s movie. So I would definitely recommend seeing it in theaters if you can. Obviously, that's going to be very difficult if you miss Wednesday's showing, but there you go. And then, plugging it into the score system, I gotta be honest, even though there are aspects of this movie that are cheesy in 2023 when comparing to other movies that we've gotten since then, I have to say I'm going to give it a strong 4. Just because, I mean, I just had a really good time, you know? And I think that everything that the movie did as a movie was executed very well. And I can't really think of anything other than my comment about the pacing at the very end that would have made the movie significantly better, or like some sin that they committed that made it so bad. So, I mean, just on my gut, I gotta say strong 4. And, you know, I guess that's the review. So, that being said, that's The Exorcist Director's Cut 50th anniversary, whatever the hell. And if you want to subscribe to the channel. If you want to like the video. And like I said before, if you dislike the video, please leave a comment as to why you dislike the video. And I will try to respond to that feedback effectively. So, that being said, we're giving it a strong 4. That's The Exorcist. I'll catch you guys in the next one.